One's ready. One's ready. Go!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. This is your daily drop for the 11th of July, brought to you by Atakalite. If you guys head over to onesready.com, top right-hand side where it says prep, partner discounts, and then scroll on down to where you see Atakalite. Now, I've hyperlinked a whole bunch of stuff in there, and you could see it as you're perusing, right? If you click on that and you don't have pop-up blockers enabled, then a pop-up window will pop up. I could say pop up a couple more times if you guys like. And it'll give you a generic discount code that'll get you 10% off of everything on their site. So they've got rocket fins, goggles, high volume masks, snorkels, booties, because you're going to need booties with the fins. They've got smartwatches and Atlas rucks and all that kind of good stuff. So they've been great teammates of ours for quite a few years now, and their stuff is just top notch, and it's exactly what you're going to use in the pipeline. So, all right, here is the joint news. U.S. to supply weapons to Ukraine. President Donald Trump announced that the United States will provide weapons to Ukraine through the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, with NATO reimbursing the full costs. Cool. I guess that means that we're kind of sharing it then. The Department of Defense will select arms and munitions, possibly including Patriot missiles and mission and medium-range rockets. Trump plans to release a statement on Russia on Monday. All right, well, we'll see what that has to say. I just hope that we don't deplete our stockpile, because we do not have as many... we do not have as much munitions as you would hope and think that we do. All right, next, Hexeth announces reforms to drone procurement. Defense Secretary Pete Hexeth introduced 2 policy changes to improve DoD procurement of uncrewed aerial systems, aiming to strengthen the U.S. drone manufacturing base and supply low-cost drones to military units by 2027. The reforms encourage innovation at unit levels and integration of drones into training programs, including force-on-force drone exercises. Hexeth highlighted past failures in meeting modern battlefield UAS requirements. Completely agree. Especially as technology is evolving in the quite crude drone warfare is very effective, kind of like how IEDs, improvised explosive devices, started catching on in Afghanistan and Iraq. Man, that is like what drones are the new IEDs, essentially. Next, Pentagon invests in rare earth mining company. The Pentagon plans to become the largest stockholder in a rare earth mining company to reduce reliance on China for critical minerals essential to defense technologies. This investment aims to secure domestic supply chains for strategic resources. Yeah, right on. I mean, it's kind of weird because the Pentagon's not, I wonder how any of that really works. But yeah, not being reliant on China or other countries for that matter would be a massive win. Air Force news. The Department of the Air Force updates dress and appearance standards. They released updates to dress and appearance standards, including regulations on combat boot dimensions, a ban on eyelash extensions, and a requirement for airmen and guardians to maintain at least one operational camouflage pattern, or OCP, uniform. Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, David Flosey, stated the eyelash rule takes effect in 30 days, with other changes in 90 days. These adjustments aim to ensure uniformity and readiness. But people are losing their minds. Next, retired generals criticize Air Force budget cuts. Retired Air Force generals, including former chiefs of staff, warned Congress that cutting the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter program and eliminating the E-7 Wedgetail surveillance plane would be a costly strategic error. Lieutenant General David Deptula emphasized that the fiscal year 2026 budget proposal would diminish future capabilities, particularly in controlling Pacific airspace. The generals urged maintaining these programs to deter potential conflicts. General Deptula was a fantastic guest that we had on. I still talk about the conversation that we had, because I enjoyed it a lot, especially the one that we had afterwards, after recording stopped. But yeah, I do see where he's coming from. I'm still two minds about the whole E7 thing, and I described it before. If the space assets are going to beat the space assets that are going to replace and do the command and control are available, or the timeline is the same or can beat the E7, then that's what we should be doing. If it can't beat it and it's an additional 5 or 10 years past the E7 procurement, then we should go with the E7 while still procuring the space assets. Next, Department level exercise series launches in the Pacific. The Department of the Air Force initiated its first generation department level exercise series focused on the Pacific, involving 12,000 personnel to enhance deterrence and global operations. The exercise emphasizes speed, scale, and tempo for future readiness. Chief of Staff at the Air Force, General David Alvin, highlighted its role in preparing for the high-end fights. Yes, next. South Dakota Air Guard introduces therapy dog. The South Dakota Air National Guard welcomed a therapy dog named Captain to support mental health or mental wellness in the 114th Fighter Wing. The initiative aims to reduce stress and foster connections among airmen. Captain's presence is expected to boost morale and resilience. Who doesn't like a freaking dog anyway? Like, of course it's going to boost morale and resilience. That's why they have dogs that go through and hang out in hospitals and hospices and other old people places, nursing homes. That's what I was looking for. I know that in Cambridge, in the United Kingdom, at Addenbrooke's Hospital, which is a massive hospital in Cambridge, there's a cat that goes around and goes throughout the halls and that kind of stuff. I mean, he was actually becoming a nuisance in a way, because he was going into, making his way into operating rooms, which obviously cats are dirty as hell. So that's not great. But man, people like animals, especially dogs. And, that only makes sense. All right, next, Space Force news. STARCOM advances integrated training environment. Space Training and Readiness Command, STARCOM, is progressing towards an integrated digital training environment called SWARM, with outgoing Commander Major General Timothy Seba stating it should be ready by year's end and cloud transition soon after. The command prioritizes funding and industry focus to accelerate delivery. This environment is critical for enhancing space operator training. I have not heard of SWARM. China's orbital maneuvers raise concerns. Of course they would. Why wouldn't they? China satellites capable of interacting with other spacecraft and weapons that can dazzle or jam U.S. satellites have grown significantly over the past decade. According to Space Systems Command's intelligence chief, analysts tracked unprecedented close approaches by Chinese satellites in 2023 through 2024. The Space Force is monitoring China's proliferated low Earth orbit constellations. A couple days ago, I know that the quote that they had and said that, and I don't remember the quote, but it was essentially like China was warning the U.S. that, you're weaponizing space and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, bro, you guys did this first. You did it well before us. So you just don't like being retaliated against, I guess. Next, opposition to ending space traffic controls program. The Space Force and industry opposed the Commerce Department's plan to cut the funding for a traffic coordination system for space in FY26. Arguing it would revert the mission to DoD if not transferred properly. Colonel Raj Agarwal emphasized aligning authorities for commercial spaceflight safety. Trade groups warn against privatizing without adequate civilian oversight. International partnership strategy unveiled. The United States Space Force released its international partnership strategy to promote responsible behavior and strengthen security with allies. It focuses on collaborative efforts for sustainable space operations. The strategy aims to enhance global space domain awareness. Cool. Next, Resolute Space 25 exercise is underway. Over 700 Guardians are participating in Resolute Space 25, the service's largest exercise, as part of the DLE series, which, if we go back up to what DLE stands for, because defense level or department level exercise series. It tests readiness in contested space environments. The event integrates with broader Department of the Air Force operations in the Pacific. All right, these are of interest. India's Operation Sindor, retired General David Deptula discussed India's Operation Sindor, noting intense air engagements and political limits to avoid escalation with Pakistan. India's lack of Rafale fighter source code limited flexibility, but adaptations achieved air superiority. The conflict exposed poor performance of Chinese weapons. Nice. Okay. Next, Iran's enriched uranium survives the airstrikes. Some of Iran's enriched uranium stockpiles survived U.S. airstrikes during Operation Midnight Hammer. According to an Israeli official, with material remaining at struck facilities like Fordo and, Natanz, Israel vows to monitor recovery attempts while U.S. officials claim the strikes obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities. Centrifuges were likely destroyed or irreparable damage. Man, we've talked about the battle hit assessment and the battle damage assessment. We know that we hit it. That would be the battle hit assessment. Whether or not we actually damaged it being the battle damage assessment, we just don't know yet. And you can't listen to anything that's on social media, because if you're pro-Trump or pro doing it, you could say, hey, yeah, we absolutely crushed it. If you're anti doing it, then you're making fun of them and going like, you said all this, but you didn't actually do anything that you said that you did. So there you go. Call for Defense Secretary Pete Hexeth resignation. Representative Don Bacon called for Defense Secretary Pete Hexeth's resignation after reports he paused Ukraine weapon shipments without President Trump's approval, embarrassing the administration. Bacon, a retired Air Force Brigadier General, cited poor judgment. He previously criticized Hexeth for disclosing attack plans on an unclassified app. Jeez. These retired generals that then become politicians. Peek behind the curtain, every single general officer is a politician. Every single one of them at some level. Next, Washington Army Guard trains for wildfire season. The Washington Army National Guard conducted water bucket training with local fire rescue to prepare for wildfire. To prepare for wildfire season. Aviation crews from the 96th Aviation Troop Command practiced operations near Puyallup in Washington. This enhances rapid response capabilities for community protection. Next, U.S. Coast Guard rescues flood victims in Texas. U.S. Coast Guard air crews completed 12 flights to rescue 15 campers and assist in evacuating 230 victims during severe flash flooding near Kerrville, Texas. Operations provided medical aid and support efforts focused on immediate life-saving measures. Kudos to those guys. We already talked about that. This is a little bit dated information, but okay. I don't know why PAO waited to put that out. All right. Next, Marine Corps Koa Moana mission in Palau. A U.S. Marine Corps Lance Corporal from Palau returned home as part of Koa Moana 25, strengthening Indo-Pacific partnerships. The mission fosters collaboration and regional bonds. It highlights personal stories of service and family ties. Boy, there's not much info on that. That seems very ambiguous. All right. Next, Marine Expeditionary Unit conducts flight operations. Marines from the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit and USS San Antonio sailors performed flight operations during a composite training unit exercise in the Atlantic. This hones tactics for seamless lethal operations. Training ensures interoperability across the teams. Yeah. U.S. Space Force reoptimization for great power competition. The U.S. Space Force announced sweeping changes to maintain superiority in great power competition. Initiatives include structural adjustments for enhanced agility. Efforts align with broader Department of the Air Force priorities. Let's see. Next one. This is the last one. U.S. Space Force environmental assessment for space launch. Space Launch Delta 45 released an environmental assessment for reusing Space Launch Complex 20 at Cape Canaveral. It evaluates impacts on land use, coastal resources, and visuals. The proposal is consistent with existing plans with negligible adverse effects anticipated. Cool. That is your daily drop for this Friday. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you later. See you.